This one's got bite. It's Crypt of the Vampire by Dave Morris. Crypt of the Vampire was originally published by Grafton Books in 1984 and is part of the Golden Dragon Gamebook series. The one I have here though was published in 2013 by Fabled Lands Publishing and is written by author Dave Morris. Now the cover in this 2013 version of the book has a vampire in the foreground with his green kind of face there and his dark cloak. In the background you can see his like a type of castle, and the cover's kind of this kind of greeny hue to it with a kind of misty background to it and a tree overhanging the main character. I actually do like the front cover artwork in this book. It's not a lot of detail at all. The vampire's got a green face, as I said there, green clasping hands. You can't really see the detail in his face, misty background, etc. And the blood red vampire font stands out. Now I believe the artist for this front cover was a company called Wombo Dream. Now Wombo Dream designed the back and front cover of this book. I believe the original artist was a chap called Bruno Elatori back in 1984. Now the rundown in the back of the book, it states, in the middle of a lonely wood, as night falls you come upon a half-ruined mansion where dwells undead Lord Tenebron. Among his servitors, deprived mortals, creatures of darkness and luckless adventurers enslaved to his will. Your only hope of escape is to prevail against the dangers that beset you and battle your way to the very heart of the catacombs. There, in the deepest chamber of the vampire's crypt, you must face him and try to end his reign of terror for all time. So I'm just going to open Crypt of the Vampire here, and in the front cover it says here, listen to them, the children of the night, what music they make, in my silly vampire voice. Inside the next cover it basically gives you a rundown of the Fabled Gamebooks publishing titles, and also Way of the Tiger Gamebooks by Jamie Thompson and Mark Smith. Crypt of the Vampire by Dave Morris. Move on, and here it says first published in 1984 by Grafton Books. This edition was 2013 by Fabled Lands. So the book itself has no introduction, zero. The author states in his own words, I dispense with the long introduction usual in game books at the time. There's no spoon feeding here, no overt mission. You aren't told your history, you are the hero, as the back cover blurb used to say, so your background and motivation are entirely up to you. And that is basically it. You're just going to get the book, pick it up and dive in. There is a combat system. It's not as detailed as the Fighting Fantasy Gamebooks, but there is one here, unlike the previous gamebooks which I reviewed, which was iHero Gamebooks, which is absolutely zero combat system. This one is basic, it's very easy to do and it's well thought out. You basically roll 2 dice, this is for your character. You roll 2 dice, add 20 to the number, and then into your character sheet, and that is your vigour. You roll 1 die, add 3 to the number, and it's your PSI, and you roll 1 die and add 3 again, and that is your agility. Moving on to the character sheet here, it says vigour, agility, PSI. You add your scores on there. You start your adventure with 10 gold pieces, and you have a sword, and your opponent boxes you have 6 to choose from. And the combat system is really easy in this one. It's as I said, not as complicated or as the Fighting Fantasy Gamebooks, but it is a basic system. It works really well, I found, and you're not long to you either dispose of the opponent or yourself are disposed of in the book. So basically, you roll 2 dice. If you score between 2 and 5, you're hit. You lose your 3 vigour. Or if you score between 6 and 12, your enemy loses vigour as well, up to 3. And this continues until you reach 0 and you win. And you've also got a chance to flee as well. And there's different areas of the game book where you might have to test your agility and PSI as well, but it's straightforward. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty of the book here, and basically you are in a kind of wood and you come across a gate in the forest, and you've got to decipher a way to get into the gate. You have a couple of options here in the first chapter, and once you're in through the gate you come across a mansion, and you basically get into the mansion. Sounds a bit like House of Hell slightly. In the mansion, and you've got to navigate your way through different areas and rooms, etc., until you find the main villain or enemy, which is vampire Lord Tenebron, who you've got to take out. This book, straight to the point. You go through the chapters, it takes you in the direction, and you have to make the correct choices. What I did find in this game book, the chapters can be very short, and thin. As you can see here, is maybe 4 or 5 chapters to each page. Some game books you get a lot less than that, but there's a lot of chapters here. And also I found that there's certain pages you come across when you make your decision which chapter to go to, it's maybe above it or basically parallel on the next page, which is very strange. Now in this game book, what I found was you don't come across a lot of characters to engage with. There's not a lot of dialogue, in fact there's basically none. There's a lot of chapters where you must choose, you must do, etc. You come across quite a bit of treasure. That was my point actually. There is a lot of gold to collect in this game book. I've got my adventure sheet here. I did take a photocopy of it. Now my gold pieces were up to 40 and I spent 0. I don't know why there's so much gold. It feels like it's a waste of time. There's no plausible reason why you should have all this gold and basically nothing comes of it. Strange. There's a lot of items to collect. I've collected quite a few down there, you can see in my character sheet. And I thought I did fight 6 enemies at the end of the day. But yeah, it was quite strange with the gold pieces and the amount of equipment you pick up and you don't need it. It basically comes to nothing, which I found, yeah, very strange. Another point I was going to mention, this book was artwork as well. It is, yeah, it's kind of basic, and I'm quite disappointed with artwork. It seems unfinished. There's a lot of pictures here. It's a bit scribbled. Yeah, the artwork, it just seems, I mean, that's quite poor. If it was better art, I mean, if there was better artwork in this game book, certainly then, I mean, it'd be a lot better. But get that there. There's yeah, I don't know if it's the printing of it. It's just a bit of a scribble. Let's have a look. Yeah, that was quite poor. The picture frame, etc. So the artwork in this game book, I'm not really impressed. You can see like vampire bats. Not really impressed with it at all. That's more like in line with kind of Fighting Fantasy, I suppose. But majority of artwork is quite unfinished and poor. What I did find disappointing in this game book is there is no kind of gothic atmosphere in it at all. You can expect a book like this, Crypt of the Vampire on a cover, it'd be a kind of vampiric kind of gothic horror and atmospheric feeling to the book. There's nothing at all. This hammer horror type feeling does not exist. There's a painting here, you can see Lord Tenebron there, but that is about it. There's nothing there. There's vampire bats, but the game book does not play through in a scenario where you feel this is a kind of gothic genre. It just, I know you come across this creepy mansion, but how the narrative flows, it just does not seem that way at all. Far from it, I'm afraid. Until you get to the end of the game book, where you basically come to the main character and you've got to fight him. And that is the only kind of vampire you come across when he's there. I'm not happy with that artwork either there. You can see that Lord Tenebron is quite poor. Yeah, I was disappointed with that. The artwork, not great. Gothic atmosphere, non-existent for me. It didn't absorb me in at all. I don't know why that was, but yeah, it is missing from this book. It's a shame. So the game book itself had really good points. The author's paragraphs and chapters were well written. It was not unlike a Fighting Fantasy Gamebook author. It flowed really well. The combat system was quick, effective, and uncomplicated. You can just like pick this game book up where you left off and just continue on. Very similar to our horror series, this could be a great introduction to game books. As I said, they're not overcomplicated. It's a great starting point and it doesn't bog you down with a long introduction either, or how the fighting mechanism works. It's basically explained in one page, etc., and that is it. Now the bad points of the book itself, I expected this to be a gothic horror book, obviously being a vampire, and I found that was not the case at all. Playing the book itself, there was a lack of atmosphere. I did not feel I was in a kind of gothic horror setting except the mansion. It was not until the end you came across a vampire where you had to basically, that was your enemy, you had to kill. There's a vampire bat through the book, but the book itself was not great. for establishing that kind of atmospheric presence, so to speak. The artwork again, inside the book, not great, unfinished, a bit scribbly. Obviously maybe it's the printing, it doesn't really do it justice either, as I said there. But however, the game book itself, overall, great effort by Dave Morris. It was first released in 1984. I did really enjoy this game book. I'm going to read more in the series, and that is the Golden Dragon game books. This one's published by Fabled Lands. And another point as well, it looks very thin compared to other game books, but you are getting 290 chapters. Oh, one other point. When coming to the end of the book, I didn't expect the end to be so quick. It just appeared. I was going through the chapters and I was making decisions, and suddenly you're there. Lord Tenebron was in front of you, and that was it. The game book was finished. There was no build up to the meeting. You didn't feel you're coming into the final stages of the book. You felt that you had quite a bit to go, quite a few decisions to make, and suddenly, bang, wallop, you were there. The game book was over. So it was a very abrupt and quick ending, I thought, of the game book. But overall, very good effort by Dave Morris. Not my most favourite game book, but it's one I do recommend to play. Certainly, if you've not had a lot of experience with these role-playing game books, it's a great starter one as well. Far better than the horror series. And I was going to mention another thing as well. I apologise. The character development. Sometimes you just, at least the horror series, you had a bit of character development at the start. Gave you a background, who you were, and who you work for, etc. This is a bit lacking. I know game books like the Fighting Fantasy ones like Creature of Havoc, etc. You don't have a lot to go on in the background, but that's a different kettle of fish. Anyway, I'm just rabbiting on now. Yep, Crypt of the Vampire, Dave Morris, check it out. Thanks again for watching this episode of Gamebook Collector, and I'll see you again in the next episode, and take care. Thanks for watching.